Hey everyone, I'm making this video for the third time now, so I better fucking nail it now. But anyway, so Nerf and Ellesmere used my Hyrja weakaura today on stream, and it made me get a lot of questions about uh, how this works. So I figured I'd lay it out for you. So I first heard about this through a friend who was using Lepan's weakaura, and something bothered me about that because it was like not correctly understood how it worked. So I decided to fix it, and now I'm making the video to explain how it works. So the original weakaura by Lepan um, made a timer bar from when you pulled Hyrja and then jumping on the right split second from the encounter start. And there was an issue with that because it's not the encounter start that's important, it's the spell queuing. So it's the first spell that is cast by the boss. And the difference between those two is time-wise minimal, but of importance because you need to be really tight on, like you need to nail this tightly on time if you want to bug the boss. So the difference is, so when you pull the boss, there are some factors for the spell queuing, how it works, and if it's delayed or not, and which means if you should delay a little bit before you leap. The trick is you pull the boss, you wait for the magic timing, then you instantly leap over to the other side. The boss runs with you, and it starts casting um, light abilities on the thunder side, buffed by the thunder mini boss, so it doesn't do anything, and then it shoots you over to the light side and is buffed by the light mini boss, but it starts doing thunder abilities, and then that doesn't do anything either. And that's really important for you as a tank to nail every time on a high key, as especially tyrannical as they get higher this season. So anyway, back to the difference between encounter initiation and the spell queuing. So they're almost the same, but the difference is, so when you pull the boss, it takes 5 seconds before its its spell queuing starts, and that part Lepan got right. But then also some other factors play in. The first factor is if the boss has to turn around, that actually slows down the spell queuing with somewhere between 0.1 seconds, 0.2 seconds, 0.3, something in that minimal area. But it matters here. Um, then the next thing is the range to the boss, and it's probably not relevant here for Hyrja, but it's something that's also relevant. It can be relevant for spell queuings, which is why it's important that you position yourself correctly and try to leap consistently to the same place. Um, I noticed this the first time back in BFA when I was collecting data on how the peacekeepers worked in Motherload, and I found that when the peacekeepers were deciding whether to cast Charged Claw or not, they would delay it if I was like miles away. But they would only delay it for like a bit, and then they would stop and cast their spell to power the claw. But if I was within a certain range, then they would not delay it, and that meant if I had to synchronize 7 peacekeepers at once, I would have to be within range of them at the correct timings, and then they would all be synchronized, standing on top of each other. It was beautiful. We timed the 28 motherload like that. Anyway, um, so it checks for those two things, and the place where you can really see this, so these two factors, motherload is an example of where you can really see the positioning factor in play on the peacekeepers, and Azure Vault is a place where you can really see the turning of the hitbox as a factor. Specifically, if after first boss you go down and you usually shroud those two arcane elementals, but if you don't shroud them and you're a warrior, then you know as a warrior sometimes you'd like to leap in and double reflect, and the double reflect sometimes it works, and sometimes the mobs are casting on different timings, and that's not a coincidence. It depends on three things. One, when you initiate the encounter, you have to do it instantly with both of them at the same time. Two, if they have to move the same with their with their nose pointing in the same direction, because if you're leaping from the front and they're both looking like this, none of them have to move, so they will cast at the same time. But if you're leaping from the side, one of them has to turn 180 degrees, which is gonna delay it a little bit, and also it's gonna be like there's a different factor because one of them gets in combat before the other, and that further complicates it. So they're gonna be like off. Um, so even though the first one is actually in combat before, it turns and casts slower than the other one. Even though this happens very quickly, it's something you notice as a warrior because it's the difference between whether your double reflect works or doesn't work. And another takeaway from this video is that this is how spell queuing works on all mobs. So this is something that's interesting for you if you want to, for instance, on high keys, synchronize also in a sewer vault those mobs that do the frontal and the tank that can be stunned, because it's really valuable if you can do that. So you have to be the same distance to them, and the same amount of angle that they're facing, and then they'll cast at the same time, and that means you can beautifully use one shockwave to stop three at the same time, instead of DRing them uselessly, where one casts and you use a shockwave, you DR all three, and then the other cast, you shockwave again, and maybe that's good enough for you, but hey, if you're a min-maxer, that's not good enough. Anyway, I'm gonna show how it works on Hyrja here. So I'm standing here, that's on this on the middle of this line, and then I'm pulling her. Please. So the first thing that's gonna happen here is there's gonna be this timer bar that counts down from 4, and the reason I added that timer bar is because you need to have this instant reaction. When the instant cast spell goes off, you also need instantly to leap, and human beings are usually slow with that. You know, we are human beings, so we're slow. So sometimes we hear a sound and then we react a half second later, or zero point 0.3 if you're good, and so on. And that's the thing you need to minimize as much as possible, which is why I made this get ready bar. So it also means like you can press other spells while this bar is there, but when the bar disappears, it goes like goes maybe 1 second, and then you hear the bell, and when you hear the bell, you need to instantly leap. And then he hears the bell and he jumps. And even if it looks like this, it's fine. If I was a little quicker there, because I was, to be honest, it's 3 in the middle of the night and I had a glass of whiskey, so I'm not quick here, but I still nail it. Um, if the boss is empowered by both here, it will cast Sanctify, and you don't get hit by the orbs, so it doesn't do any damage at all to you, so that's fine. If it looks like this, it's fine, but it could also look like the boss is moving a little more close to the thunder side, and then it will not be powered by that yellow beam, and both of those are fine. So it will stand still and cast the orbs, and then after the orbs, you need to move it a little bit more, like just make sure it gets all the way to the thunder side, and turn it for the like you taking the huge ass beam into the face. And I don't get knocked here because it misses because it's M0. But that doesn't really matter because I move it over here where it starts casting thunder abilities while it's buffed by the light guide. So that also does nothing. As you can see here, she will cast this Thunder Eye of the Storm in a sec. Yeah, and that's basically how it works. Consider subbing to my Twitch if you like this work. I've done a lot of stuff like this in the past. I keep doing content, original stuff. I have helped some rank 1 players throughout the time. I have published video on Mechagon Workshop where I made all players in MDI follow the same strat on the dog. I have helped Was, who is a BlizzCon winner, with his whole UI. I have helped Andy Brew and Speeds and Ramfam, their team, with UI through the most of Shadowlands. Yeah, come to my Discord and join the nerdy discussions. Be the first to know when something cool is happening. Okay, peace out.